Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Hired. I am Bill, the company's expert, and today we're going to be doing a Q&A session like we do every week, every Monday morning, on anything that you're struggling with regard to getting hired. That's the idea. So anything related to job interviews, job interview questions, resumes, where to discover jobs, how to apply, the wonderful world of networking, anything there, and careers in general, getting promoted, salary, all that kind of stuff. That's what you're here for. And just as a reminder, I do a public opinion poll on this channel every morning. I schedule them so they show up in the morning, at least the morning in the Western Hemisphere. And every Saturday, I do a fun one, a kind of joke question. And it always amazes me, the comments I get, because a lot of people out there, like 99% of people that watch my stuff are awesome, but I get comments from people not realizing that the joke question is a joke. To me, it's blindingly obvious, maybe not to everyone, but I still get a lot of people, I get a lot of flack over posting some of those questions. People get really, really upset for some reason. It's just a multiple choice question. So I've got a few in the pipeline, but I think I'm going to stop doing those because some people just don't get it, unfortunately. So welcome to the live stream. This is called How to Get Hired, where I'm here to basically answer your questions. So if you see me, you see my face, get in the chat. You should see a chat box nearby, whether you're on mobile, or the desktop, or whatever device you're listening to me or watching this on. And send me your question, and I will do my best to help you out. Yeah, because like I always say, I mean, this is not radically original. Everybody knows this. When we are between jobs, when we're concerned about getting hired and passing job interviews and getting job interviews, things like that, we are at one of the lowest points in our lives. Certainly our self-esteem is not really there. Everything seems very dark and depressing, but it is largely an illusion. You know, that's just how it seems. It seems like that until it no longer seems like that suddenly. That's just how it goes. So if that's the place where you are not alone. Okay, most people go through this, and that's just how it goes. And it feels like you're alone, and you have no support, you have no help, and nobody cares. That is not true. The winner of the first question in the chat goes to Eugene. Eugene says, they have now invited me for in-person interviews. How do I prepare for this final interview? Is this the final interview? Because there's two things there. By that, do you mean that they have done video interviews and stuff before, and the final interview is in person? Is that kind of what we're talking about? Because there's two different things there. Basically, the way you prepare for one interview is the way you prepare for all interviews. There's very minor differences between like a first stage interview and a last stage interview. There really isn't that much of a difference between them. Now, obviously, depending what industry you're in, what level you're at, it's, the details are going to change. But generally, it's the same approach. They're wanting to see who you are. They're wanting to basically see, are you the type of person we want to work with? And, usually the way this works is that when you send in an application, that's when they're paying attention to your qualifications. Do you technically have all the qualifications you would need to do this job? Okay. And of the people that sort of pass that test, those are the ones they give interviews to. Okay. Now, if 50 people pass that test, okay, they have like 100 applications and 50 of them, let's say, on paper, they look like they're qualified. They would be fully qualified to do the job. Okay. Let's say it's a pool of 50 people. They can't bring 50 people in for individual interviews. So what they do is they maybe take the top, 10 or something like that and give them an interview. Okay. But once you get to the interview, they're feeling you out. They're trying to decide, okay, we know, like, assuming that, you check out and, your resume isn't a lie. Okay. You are technically qualified for the job. The only question now remains is, are you the type of person that we would want to work with and who is suited for this job? So in practice, that turns into, well, we will bring in people for interviews and we're going to choose the person we like the most. Okay. That's unfortunately how this manifests itself, how it turns out. They're looking for the most likable person. So number one, this is kind of strange because, you think like, man, I have spent years and years becoming qualified to do a job like this. I have worked very hard. I've learned a lot of things, and all this, and developed a lot of skills, et cetera, et cetera. I've learned how to act professionally and all the rest. But when I get to the interview, do they primarily care about that stuff? No, they're looking at how much they like me, how much we get along, how much of a rapport I have with the interviewer, that kind of thing. It seems really ridiculous. And in a way it is, it seems like they're looking at the stupidest criteria to pick you. Okay. Having been on both sides of the table, it's not as stupid as it sounds, but, it really comes across that way. Okay. So when you're talking about how to prepare for whether it's your final interview or your first interview in person, it really boils down to the same thing. It's unfortunately all about personality and communication skills and how polite you are and how friendly you are and things like this. That is a huge, huge part of this process. Okay, because the reality is that you could be the most technically qualified person in the world. You could know the job inside and out. You wouldn't need any help. You work faster than anyone. You don't make any mistakes. You could be that person, but if you're super argumentative or, nobody can ever tell you in any way that you're wrong and you need to change something, without you flying into a blinding rage, that trumps everything. Okay. It doesn't matter how good you are at the job. If they can't work with you, it's never going to happen. It's never going to work. They are going to have a miserable experience being your boss and or being your coworker. And it's just not going to result in good things. Okay. So at the end of the day, that really is a huge, huge part of it. And that's what they look for in interviews. So whether it's your first interview or your last interview, that's always what they're looking for. They're just maybe looking at it at a superficial level at the beginning and then maybe a more deep level towards the end. That's kind of generally how this goes. So hopefully that makes sense, Eugene. Oh, I forgot to turn off some of the filters and things, so I might do that. Anyway, I'm just going to try and get to these questions right now. Hi, this is Sridhar. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I always say everybody's name wrong. It's nothing personal. Who is a member. Thank you very much for being a member. Thank you for your support. Hi, I did an interview for a QA technician, so quality assurance technician. I got selected for it. The manager told me that he wanted me to apply for the quality assurance coordinator job. After 2 weeks, I did the interview and was not selected. Okay. Eliminate. It happened to me with another company as well. Listen, if you guys just bear with me for 20 seconds or something, I'm going to go to my YouTube channel. I'm going to turn off some of the filters that are on the chat comments because I believe it's filtering certain comments out, things like that. So just bear with me live. I'm just going to divert my attention for 1 second here. Let's see. This is under settings. And I'm just going to remove some of the filters just temporarily, just so that everybody can, there's less issues with people posting. Okay. So hopefully that works. Okay. So I've turned off some of the filters. So Sridhar, if you had more to the story that was filtered out, I've removed that now. Okay, so it happened to me with another company as well. I did the psychology or personality assessment, and the HR manager told me that I was suitable for a manager position and wanted me to apply for manager instead of QA technician. Yeah, that kind of, I don't know. Look, there are exceptions to everything, but I think it throws a lot of people when you apply for one job and then, you deal with a recruiter or somebody, and then they say, well, you should apply for this other job, when that really wasn't your intention. And you kind of go along with it a lot of times because you don't want to challenge the recruiter on anything. And if there is supposedly an opportunity there, you don't want to, say no to it if it makes sense. But it is something that, you were not intending to do, you're not prepared for, and it can be a suboptimal situation. Okay, so I've got your story there, Sridhar, so let me know your question. Okay, I don't recall seeing a question anywhere in there. So let me know. In the meantime, we got the infamous Chad. There's a name. Says, everything you said about feelings after a layoff is accurate. Thank you for doing these streams. They've been immensely helpful. You're absolutely welcome, infamous Chad. Yeah, for most people, certainly people who work as employees, this is the way it goes, and I mean, I'm not trivializing it or looking down on it in any way. I mean, it's part of reality, like this process puts an immense psychological toll on people, when you're between jobs, just the uncertainty. You have the uncertainty of how to get a job, right? Like where the next opportunity will come from. How long will it be until something comes along? In what form will it come along? And not to mention the fact that the process is basically a process of continual rejection, because you're applying for things and the answer is going to be no until you get a yes, right? So, I mean, you put all those things together and it's an incredibly stressful process. And you got to take care of your mental health as you do this, and I don't know, that's easier said than done. You can't control the way you feel. You just as humans, we have no control over how we feel. What we do have control over is we do have control of our actions. And if certain activities cause us to feel a certain way and we want to avoid that, we do have control over perhaps not doing those actions, right? So if a certain type of activity during your job search campaign is leading to a lot of mental stress, it may be possible by selectively choosing what you do in your job search campaign to sort of mitigate that for a little bit. Also, it's very important to occasionally try and do fun stuff as much as you possibly can, just to break the cycle of activity. If you do very depressing things all day long, every day, it's going to take a toll. So, I don't know, if you have the opportunity to watch your favorite TV show or movie or spend time with people you enjoy their company, try and do that stuff as much as you possibly can. And it should go a little bit easier and you will perform better in your job search and you'll get hired sooner, all things being equal. Okay, where do they leave off here? By Ashura Hanok says, hello, sir. I have a final interview for this certain company. The location is somehow on the remote side, so transportation is hardly accessible. If they throw possibly if they ask me any other question, is it appropriate? Okay. There may have been stuff that was filtered out. Hopefully I've fixed that problem. So if there was a piece missing there, if you want to repost that. Possibly if they ask me any other question, is it appropriate to ask them if they have a service car company? I don't know if I got the context quite right. It seems like there was a missing piece of that story, but just to directly address your question here, yeah, like usually at the end of the interview, they'll say, do you have any questions for us? Anything like that. So if that's what they're doing here and you're saying, is it appropriate to ask them if they have a service company, like a car company? Yes. Part of the compensation package can be that they provide a company vehicle. Okay. So if you're wondering about that, if that's that's what indeed you are wondering about, it is perfectly okay to ask that. And then if they say yes or no, if they say yes, then there probably might be some follow-up questions to that, right? Like, under what circumstances can we use it? Do we take it home? Can we use it on weekends? That kind of thing, right? So definitely, there's nothing taboo whatsoever about asking about that. If they prompt you for, do you have any questions for us? Make sure that you don't have a tone of like, I'm only in this for myself and what I can get out of it. You could just, just keep it cordial and friendly and say, I was just curious. I was just wondering, in the compensation package, do you guys offer a company car? Is that something standard you guys do or not really? And see what they say. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Where did I leave off here? Okay, I believe, we got the infamous Chad. Did I already address this? I've received an offer. Okay, the infamous Chad says, I've received an offer letter this morning. Congratulations. And prepping to negotiate. Watched your video on this already. Have a list of things I'm bringing to add value. How do I start the conversation, though? Well, listen, look, okay. If you've seen my video, I've done a few videos on this. I did like one video that's like an hour long. It's called Salary Negotiation. For those watching that haven't seen that video, negotiation is not persuasion. It really isn't. Okay. It's based on you knowing what your position is. Okay. So knowing what makes sense for you, knowing what would be reasonable compensation or typical compensation, and knowing what's unreasonable for you. Okay, so if you go in with that information, you're forearmed with that information. That's half the battle. The other half of the battle is having a plan B. Okay, because if they're not going to offer you something that makes sense to you, now that you know what makes sense for you, you have to know what your plan B is. Okay, you don't have any. The only power you have in negotiating is the ability to say no. Right. If they say, this is what we offer, you better take it, and then you have no choice but to take it, it really isn't much of a negotiation. The only power you have is your ability to say, no, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable for me. Okay, so if that's your final offer, then we have nothing more to say, right? That's your only power. Now, knowing when to say that is huge, right? You're not going to take a job where, you pay so much in gas for your car and you spend 2 hours commuting every day and you get these benefits, but you have to pay this. Like, it almost doesn't make any sense for you, right? So you got to know those two things. You got to know what your position is, what makes sense, and you got to know what alternatives you have. So this is why the way to win a negotiation is to have backup options. Ideally, in this type of situation, you would have more than one job offer, or you'd be in late stage interviews with other companies also. So if this one is not really prepared to pay you what you need, you can always, at the end of the day, as a last resort, say, no, I'm sorry. That doesn't work for me. I would need this. And until you can do that, unfortunately, the answer is no. Right? So that's what negotiation is about. It's not about trying to persuade them that your position is reasonable. Your position is your position. Okay? That's what it is. And the only question is whether they can, whether they can acquiesce to that or not. So those are the things you have to do. It requires quite a bit of homework to negotiate successfully. If you go in there knowing that, like, look, let's say you went into a negotiation for compensation. They say they really like you. They want to hire you. You say, great. Okay. They give you an offer letter. The offer letter says we're going to pay you 40, and you know that you need 60. Okay. Now, why do you say that? You say that because you have another offer from another company that's paying you, say, 55, right? So if they're not going to pay you, say, 60, then you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. You can walk away from that without any worries because you have something that's 55 that's in the bag. Okay? If they're going to pay you 40, it doesn't make any sense for you to take that. Okay? So imagine if you had alternatives and you know your alternatives, right? That really arms you to do some high-level negotiation, and you can either get what you want or you can walk away from it. There is no situation where you accept something that doesn't make any sense for you. Okay, so how do you start the conversation? Well, presumably they give you an offer letter, and they're going to be asking you, can you sign it? And in some way, shape, or form, right? That's what they're presumably the situation they're putting you in. So you would respond and say, excellent, I've received your offer letter. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you guys. I'm quite flattered that, you have decided to have such a leap of faith in me. That's great. And I really hope this works out. Now, I do have a few questions before I can sign the offer letter. When can we discuss this? Something like that, right? Now, if you got them on the phone, that's great. Or if you want to do it by email, you can do it by email. If you want more of a persuasive kind of thing, then do it by phone. If you want more of a sort of hardline approach, then do it by email. Okay, that's usually how this goes. And, for those of you who haven't seen any of my videos on negotiation, basically, you have to give them some stuff. So you say, okay, well, I'll give you this. This is no problem. That's no problem. That's no problem. That's no problem. This I'm used to a little bit better, when it comes to sick days or vacation days or benefits or whatever. But you know what? I'm excited about this job. It's fine. We don't have to worry about that. So I'm giving you this. I'm giving you that. However, here's what I need. Okay. I need you to change this number to this or, whatever it is. If you do that, we got a deal, and, I can start whenever you want or whatever it is. Okay, so that's the way these conversations are going to go. That's the way you initiate them. They're going to send you the offer letter, and then they're going to ask you to sign it. And your response is when you start the conversation. Where were we here? Jim Hansen says, hello, how does one respond to the question, if a coworker is having conflict, not merely venting or light conflict with another worker, and is talking to you about it, how would you deal with it? Okay, it depends on people's definitions of the word conflict. That people have their own definitions of that word. I think what they mean here is confrontation, because conflict technically is anytime you have a difference of opinion with somebody, okay? So your boss says, I need this work done by 9 p.m., you think that's unreasonable, but you don't say anything. You still have conflict with your boss, right? Okay, so conflict is a difference of opinion. It's causing contention. However, in this case, I think they're talking about confrontation. So if your coworker is having a confrontation with another worker and is talking to you about it. So they've already had a confrontation with another worker, and after the fact, they're talking to you about it. How would you deal with it? Okay, that's a very general question. We don't know if their conflict is reasonable or unreasonable, or if they're in the right or in the wrong. We don't know. So how would you deal with it? Well, okay, the way to deal with conflict is communication, right? So I would listen. Okay, I would allow them to express what their issue is and their side of it. It also doesn't say whether this is during work hours or this is after hours or, anything like that. But assuming that, this wasn't taking you away from doing your job or something, or in an inappropriate situation, I'd listen and I'd try to help them if I could by perhaps, if I knew something about this particular issue, trying to help them put the problem in perspective. Okay. If I knew if it was an issue that the company had like a process for, like it was an issue of harassment or insubordination or, inappropriate conduct, or if it was something like that, I would advise the employee to go through proper channels for that. There may be, in the long run, it might be the right thing to do. Okay. And just try and smooth it over. That's how I would handle it. That's the general approach. But, some of the details here are very important. It's going to be variable on when it is and what it's about and how angry the employee is, for example. So, you know what I mean? But that's my general answer. Okay, so we got Sridhar again. I think I did I deal with this already? I did the psychology and personality assessment and wanted me to apply. Yeah, okay, I talked about that. Or is it a trick to eliminate me? Or are they genuinely asking me? It could go both ways. It depends. I mean, we get both situations. But like, I guess I think this type of situation is more up to your personality. Now, for myself, if I applied for one job and the person said, well, no, you should apply for this other job instead. I don't know. I would kind of stick to my original plan. I would say, okay, that's something I will consider. But in the meantime, I still would like to apply for this. So can we just go that route? I don't think it's necessarily a trick to eliminate you if they just suggest an alternate job you apply for. It can be. I mean, some recruiters play all kinds of stupid games with people, and their absolute inability to actually give you any kind of bad news or tell you what's up with things. Sometimes that's legitimate, sometimes it's really not. But it takes all kinds. So it could go both ways on that. Both are a possibility. Bai says, sorry, I meant company car. Yeah, I think I got that. That's what I was responding to, so hopefully that worked out. Jim Hansen, I have another question. Do you have any education resources on understanding interviews from the interviewer's side? Well, I mean, listen, the material on that is the material that they use to train HR professionals, right? So, for example, I taught in a program, I've taught in business school, but I've also taught in a program where it's like an HR certificate. And part of that, within that, is you would take like 1 or 2 courses on recruitment and selection. So those courses have textbooks, and you can get the textbooks. I don't have any titles or names like off the top of my head, but those are freely available. You can do, if you want to do research on that, you can go to universities and things online, okay, or community colleges, look at maybe an HR program that they're offering, and see if they'll usually tell you what courses are in that program. See if they post the textbooks. A lot of schools post their textbooks. Universities and stuff do that for various courses in their programs. So go to the HR certificate program, go to the recruitment and selection course, whatever form that takes, and look at their textbook and see if you can, like, if you know the title and the author, see if you can like do a search, like say on Amazon for that. And sometimes you can get the slightly older edition of it for like literally $5, like very cheap. And you just order that. That would be the definitive source for that kind of stuff. Now that's low-level stuff. That's worker-level stuff. When you do interviewing at a higher level for a position where you're going to have to make a lot of decisions, you're a decision maker. So you're a manager of some type, or you're an executive manager. It's completely different. They don't use any of these silly cliche job interview questions. It's more like you get to know the person, and in those situations, they don't really use recruiters for any major decision making in the process. They just use recruiters to sometimes go out and find candidates at a low level, but then all the filtering of that is done by essentially the hiring managers, people high up, that are themselves high level managers that then just have a series of free-form conversations with the applicant. And that's how you do it at that level. You got to get to know them. So it's a completely different ballgame than doing sort of worker level job interviews. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense depending on what you're looking for there. Jim says, thank you so much. You're absolutely welcome. There we go. So we got to the end of the current questions. So if you have a question, get in the chat. Let me know. I know I got backlogged there a bit, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So yeah, no, I wanted to continue what I was saying before about the psychological stresses involved in job search. That's something that I don't think people talk about enough. I think a lot of people feel very isolated in this process. You know, if you're not currently working, I think a lot of people feel very isolated. They feel like, you know, I'm here on my own. I've got no one to help me. No one understands. Nobody is experiencing the same stresses that I am. You know, and this kind of thing. And that's just not true. Like, most people undergo the same process, the same situation. It can be quite an issue, and especially if it's prolonged, if it goes on for a while. And my understanding is that, you know, this isn't the quick process it used to be maybe 20, 30 years ago. You know, people can, ever since COVID, I think, you know, people can be between jobs for a while, depending on what approach you take and what level you're at and all this kind of stuff. Certainly, if you're doing the networking thing, that can certainly speed things up. But if your entire job search campaign is just composed of like responding to ads on Indeed or something, you know, it can take a little while. Okay, we got a couple of things here. Where did I leave off here? Here we go. The infamous chat. If I can share a resource, I discovered that my local library offers access to LinkedIn Learning even from home with your library card info. Okay, great. Yeah, you can share that. I mean, I have my own courses if people really need a course for stuff. I think they're on the screen right there, right? 2 courses. Basically, you've got this thing, which is like all my advice in one place for how to get hired from beginning to end with templates and step-by-step kind of things. That talks about how to get a job in the traditional sense. You're going for a worker level job. You're sending out resumes. You're going to job interviews, and you're negotiating job offers, and you know, you're getting hired that way. It also talks about networking, what I think a lot of people, in my opinion, they really should be exposed to a lot earlier in life. You know, it doesn't matter if you're an extrovert or an introvert. It doesn't matter if you're doing this in person or remotely. It's extremely powerful. You know, it can open a lot of doors for you. You know, and it's one of those things where it's effective because not a lot of people are doing it. So the people who are doing it, it really elevates you above the crowd. You know, I mean, that's one of the things. It's not particularly hard. It just that requires a little bit of initiative. And so I talk a lot about that, and I give you sort of step-by-step process of how to do that with templates and things like that. One particular method of networking, and for what it's worth, it's something that I used myself, the exact method to build up a consulting business a few years ago, which I still do. So if you have any interest in that or any other courses I have, check out the description box under this video, and I got links to the course itself, and I've got links to videos that describe the course so you know in detail what you're getting. Okay, Sridhar says, I'm getting the interviews and also did the final rounds, but not getting the job. I have good experience of 6 years. The hiring managers seem to be happy and liked me in the final rounds. I asked them that I want the job. They said, you are the better candidate, but still not selected. It happened for 3 interviews. Okay, first of all, Sridhar, that's not unusual, okay? It is not uncommon to get to the final round of interviews. You know, maybe you're in the final 3 or something and you're not selected. Okay, that happens, you know? And it's nothing necessarily that you're doing wrong. It's just the way it goes. The biggest element in this entire process is random chance. Okay, this is evidenced by the fact that you go to one company, they interview you, you know, you give basically the same answers to the job interview questions. They conclude that, nope, you don't even, either we don't even give you an interview, or, you know, you go to one interview and that's it, you're eliminated. Another company or another organization, you apply, they interview you, you give the same answers to job interview questions, you have the same resume, the same qualifications, but they think you're awesome and they select you. Excuse me, they select you. You know, have you changed? No. It's just a different bunch of people, right? You know, and you have no control over that. It depends more on them than it does you, right? Most people get hired eventually, right? You find a place where they think highly of you, or they think highly of you enough to hire you, right? Okay, it's just a matter, you got to keep looking. Now, that being said, okay, we can always improve. We can always try and do some self-improvement, but there's a limit to that. Just because you did not pass a job interview does not necessarily mean that it's because you screwed up and did something wrong. They're probably just looking for something else, okay? And this process, the way it works, as I'm sure you know, is they intentionally don't tell you exactly what they're looking for. If they told everyone exactly what they were looking for, people would abuse that. They would artificially pretend to be that thing that they were looking for to get the job, right? The whole reason of keeping it secret is that you don't want people knowing exactly what you're looking for. You want to see who they are, and then you can do an honest assessment, right? So the side effect is that, you know, you might be an amazing candidate. I'm sure you are. You might be highly skilled, highly valuable, very employable. But these people were looking for someone that, you know, I don't know, they had a certain thing, or they had a certain personality, or they had, like, I don't know. And the other reason why they don't admit this is because some of the things that they're looking for are actually so stupid and embarrassing if they did admit it, right? But people have their quirks, and companies have their quirks, and groups of people have their quirks, because there's a lot of politics going in if more than one person is responsible for deciding who gets hired, right? So you have no control over that, nor do you need to worry about that. All you have to do is A, do your best, and B, pursue as many opportunities as you possibly can. And that's it. Don't beat yourself up over it not working out. It's disappointing, but it's nothing you had control over in the vast majority of situations. Okay. And don't pay attention to what they said. Okay. Hopefully everybody who's been around the farm a few times by now and has applied for many jobs and been to a few interviews, you guys know that just because they say something, that doesn't really mean anything. They'll tell you all the stuff. Oh, you're the best candidate. Oh, you know, you're the front runner. And, like, it just, we'd like to believe it because you never know. There's a chance it could be true, but usually it turns out not to be the case. They just lie right through their teeth. Some of that is diplomacy. Some of that is like, I just want to make you feel good, right? But the flip side is that it's a white lie, right? And, it makes people feel bad, obviously, if you lie to them, right? And it perplexes still other people because you're saying one thing and then your actions signal another thing, right? You said I was the front runner and then you don't call me back, right? There's a disconnect there. I'm confused. And they don't recognize it for what it is, which is like, well, they were just being polite. There was protocol. Or maybe they indeed felt that genuinely, but then something came up. They were told by their boss, the job's canceled, or you've got to hire this other person, or I want to be involved in the process now, and I'm going to overrule you. I mean, you never know what goes on behind the scenes. I've seen all three of those scenarios play out before where I've been hiring. Okay, so remember, it's not because of you. Just do the best you can and keep going. Okay? And sometime soon, when they say this stuff, it'll turn out to be genuine and it'll work out. Okay? In the meantime, just make sure that you've done your preparation. Make sure that you're familiar with the company and the role when you go to apply, like as much as you possibly can. Or when you go to interview, before an interview, make sure that you've done your research on the company or the organization. Make sure you've done your research on the role, okay? And make sure that when you go in there, you're as much as is humanly possible, you are friendly and easygoing and professional, right? Sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes you're dealing with very rude people, very unsophisticated and incompetent people, and you've got to be nothing but smiles and chuckles while they are unprofessional and rude to you. Not an easy task sometimes, right? But showing frustration or impatience or being offended by something that they don't consider offensive, I mean, within reason, can be pretty tough for some people. For most people, actually. Anyway, send in your questions. I've reached the end of the feed, so if you have any questions that you're struggling with, let me know. Here we go. Milan says, if the company has 10 to 15 employees, should the owner/CEO do all open position interviews from the beginning? Or should they delegate these tasks at least the first steps? Well, it depends. If it's 10 to 15 employees, I would think that they're going to be involved. Okay, because if you've only got 10 employees and you're hiring an 11th, that's kind of a major thing. If you hire the wrong person that poisons all the other employees and causes a lot of disruption and damage, that can be a huge deal, right? So you would want to make sure that that decision is made properly. Now, if you have somebody that you trust with your life, okay, I suppose you might delegate it in that situation. You might be okay with it. But in the vast majority of situations, I think you would at least want to be, overseeing the process. So that would mean being present in certainly the final interview. Okay. Hiring is very important, especially when you're in a small company. Okay. Very, very important. It is like the difference between success and failure. You can hire one person, and because you hired that one person in 1 year's time, you got no more company. Or you could hire one person, and in 1 year's time, they've tripled your business, right? So it's very important. So, usually that means you're going to be there personally to have some say in that decision and observe things for yourself. Tammy Smith says, hi, Bill. Hi, Tammy. I had a one-way interview with a big company a few days ago. Was wondering generally how long does it take them to let applicants know if they're going to move forward? That varies, Tammy. Oh, it continues. In the meantime, I'm applying to other jobs and I'm trying to network, I guess, by talking to people that I know. Thank you. Okay. How long does it take them? Okay, well, first of all, it varies, but generally it's done pretty quickly, okay? If you're dealing with a recruiter, they'll feed you all kinds of excuses why they haven't gotten back to you. Oh, we're still considering. Oh, the job is on hold. Oh, I had to go on vacation. And that's if you can even get them to respond. Okay. Listen, Tammy, don't worry about it, okay? If they get back to you, great, okay? If they don't get back to you, that doesn't matter. Keep moving forward. Don't stop and wait by the phone, okay? Like figuratively speaking, okay? Don't stress out about, why haven't they called me? They should call me. They should have called me before today. That does two things. First of all, it's completely unproductive, spending your energy and, thoughts and hopes and everything on that. Secondly, it ruins your mental health, okay? Because just waiting by the phone and having it not ring, figuratively speaking, is very stressful. And it doesn't result in anything good. So what you've got to do, as much as physically possible, is try and focus your efforts on applying for more jobs, creating new opportunities, getting more interviews, getting more offers, okay, more networking opportunities. And just for the record, networking by trying to talk to people that I know, okay, that's technically is networking. just so you know, the most powerful form of networking is not that, okay? Networking, the by far the most powerful form of it is reaching out proactively to people you don't know, okay? Relevant people. So, you know what? I'm going to, to hell with it. I'm going to do this. I've done this before, but I'm going to do it again because a lot of people said this was useful. So just bear with me for 1 second here. I'm going to share my screen. And I will give you a sort of very, very brief overview of what you can do for networking. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, well, we got part of my screen. Let's see. Okay, so I'm here at Google, okay, and I don't know. It starts by you entering the name of your city or hometown or region if you live out in the boonies somewhere. Okay, I don't know. Where's a place I haven't looked up yet? Some magical, wonderful city. How about Saskatoon? You guys heard of Saskatoon? Saskatoon. Yes, it's in Saskatchewan, right? We only have the coolest names for things up here in Canada. Okay, so Saskatoon. Now you go to maps, okay? Can you even see this? It's off the screen. Yeah, okay, great. So my screen is truncated in some way. See if I can do this. Okay, just bear with me a second here. This will be worth your while. Okay, I'm trying to reposition my web browser. Highly professional setup I've got here. Okay, so here we go. I'll make it a bit smaller. There we go. So let's pretend for a moment that you lived in the wonderful city of Saskatoon, where dreams come true, okay? And that should be their tagline. I'm sure it isn't, but it should be. Okay, so we're looking at a map of your hometown. Okay, we're going to make it a bit bigger. Okay, now in this box up here, this is Google. Okay, Google Maps. Type in the name of your industry. So I don't know if somebody names an industry. Nobody has been talking about a specific industry. I don't know. It would be too easy to say things like bookkeeping or whatever, but something very specific. I don't know, drywall. Let's say that's what you do, okay? Drywall. It's kind of low level, basic, but there you go. Okay, so maybe you're a fully qualified drywall installer, or you once had you have run a subcontracting company that does drywall. Okay, so bam, on this map, you're getting a whole bunch of businesses that are in the drywall industry. Okay, so you could even, if it's a really big city, like you live in Mexico City or something, you could refine it by areas of the city so you can see how far away these businesses are from you. Now, these are your potential employers, okay? If you wanted to do drywall, these are the businesses that are in the business of drywall in your hometown, okay? So if you click on any one of these, okay, like this one, I just clicked on this one, drywall contracting and installation, you get the information. You get their address, you get their website, you get their phone number, etc. Now, on an absolute basic level, okay, you could, I suppose, go to their website. I could click on this. It's called drywallsaskatoon.com and see if they have a career section and see if they're hiring. Yes, you could do that. However, what is a lot more useful is, now that I know the name of this company and its location, I can go to LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn account, okay, and do a people search. So you refine the search to your hometown, say Saskatoon, and you do a people search with this company, okay? And what that'll do is that'll find the individuals within that company, okay? It'll find hopefully the owner, maybe the general manager, maybe some other employees, okay? So not only can you see them and you can see their profile, like essentially their resume, you can also contact them through LinkedIn, okay? For example, you could either send them a direct message, or what I think is a far more promising way to go is to send them a connection request. Now, you send a connection request, you put a little note in there. Most people will not accept it because they don't know who you are, but a certain percentage will, something like 20 or 30% of all the people you send it to. And I'm talking like people like this, like managers, the owner of Drywall Contracting and Installation Saskatoon, okay? They will accept it. So if you go to say 100 of these, how many did we get here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so that's 17 companies here. Let's do another one. Let's say we're a contractor. I don't know, framing. Maybe you're a laborer. I don't know what we do. But you know what I mean? You can figure out like there's going to be several different industries that would relate to you, okay? Several different ways of phrasing it. Look at this. Bam, this is framing. We got another 10 or whatever, right? So you can easily come up with 100 companies, even in a tiny place like Saskatoon. This is like less than 500,000 people, I believe, the city. So this is tiny, okay? And then in a big city or more reasonably sized city, you're going to get a lot more people. These are the companies. Now, at each company, you're going to get more than one contact person. There's the owner, there's the manager, there's the department head or whatever that's relevant to what you do. Okay. So you have multiple potential contacts with each. So you can see how you can get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contacts, right? Now, even if 20% of people respond to a connection request, that's still lots of people, lots and lots of people. And if all of those that accept your request, you then contact and say, I would love to be able to get a minute of your time. Or you say, look, I'm looking for a position. I'm a fully qualified, I don't know, drywall installer. I got lots of experience. If ever you're looking, let me know. Now, most of those people won't respond because they don't happen to be hiring someone like you right now. But statistical probability says that some people will. Serendipitously, a couple of those people will be looking for someone like you right now. And you just landed right in their lap, okay? And if you send them a note that's very professional, very friendly, very disarming, a lot of them will say, hey, you should come in and, let's talk. There's a chance we could have something. We don't know right now, but let's talk, right? So you start setting those up, okay? And if you sort of spread your net wide enough, you get things happening. You get lots of leads coming out of this, and they're great leads because they've already had a sample of how awesome you are to deal with. They've seen your dedication to their particular company. You wouldn't apply like this if you were just looking for anything. And they've seen a taste of your professionalism, what you said in your note, okay, and so on. So they know a few things about you, and they've also seen your initiative in being able to do this. So this is a type of networking that's extremely powerful. I talk about this in my course, but you can get into this world too. I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, now where was I in this feed here? It blanked on my feed on the screen, but that's okay. I've got it right here. Let's see, where was I? So that was Tammy that I was kind of sort of responding to. Jacob says, hey, Bob. Well, okay, my name's Bill, but fair enough. Your videos are very inspiring. I applied at a job and what? And my current job to verify employment. They needed my current job to verify employment. I never had that experience and I thought it was a good sign. Okay. The job denied my application and I was down for a minute. However, I gathered my pride and went back to applying. I'm thinking about applying to something with math, no teaching. Okay. I have a bachelor in finance and another degree in logistics and supply chain management. I want to try something new for job description, relocating into another state. Is that a good idea? Sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Listen, just by a couple of things you said earlier on, maybe I'm right or wrong on this, but I got the impression that you haven't applied for a lot of jobs because you're kind of really, I don't want to say overthinking, but you're really analyzing this really in depth. Okay. Number one, make sure you're applying to a lot of jobs. Okay. So for whatever you're looking for, okay, or whatever you're qualified to do, which can be quite wide. You're talking about, is it okay to go to another location? Yes. I mean, ideally you'd want, listen, if you're actively looking to move away from where you are, it's a no-brainer. If you're not actively looking to move, but you feel you have to move to get a job, it makes sense to try and exhaust your opportunities in your current location first, right? So you want to make sure that you've done that. So I got the impression it sounds like you haven't applied for a ton of things. I could be wrong on that. But if you haven't, make sure that you've applied for a lot of things and that you found a lot of things. The demonstration, whatever you want to call it, I did a moment ago with Google Maps showing you the absolute basics of networking and reaching out to potential employers who haven't posted a job. The thing here is that you're not going to companies that have posted a job and that are actively looking. You're going to companies that haven't posted anything, because most jobs are not posted. They exist and they're filled without ever having been posted publicly. Okay? Those are the jobs that you're targeting when you do the thing that I showed like a moment ago with Google Maps, that sort of networking where you're proactively reaching out to hiring managers at organizations that have potential to hire you. Okay, they're in your industry, they're in your hometown. Okay? So I would make sure you're doing, like, if you haven't done this activity, you got to do that before you would like look in other cities and things and think about relocating. That's what I would recommend anyway. Like, it just seems like you're jumping the gun if you relocate without even having done this. So just make sure you've done this first. Okay. If you've done all of this and you've like really, turned over every rock and, you've looked absolutely everywhere and you still have come up short, there's nothing available or nothing that they'll hire you for, then obviously you go further afield. Okay. It also depends. The more specialized your training, the more likely you will have to relocate. That's the general rule. If you got a PhD in some very specific field, it's almost a guarantee that you will have to relocate to get like a good job, right? So it depends what level you're at and what's your chosen industry. If you're a low level like person, like in accounting or like you're in bookkeeping or something, that's ubiquitous. Like you can get a job anywhere. You can get a job in any country, any city, any town. They will always need bookkeepers and accountants. Those type of jobs, they're almost universal, right? They're not industry specific. No matter what type of business that you have, they will need an accountant and they will need someone to collect invoices and receipts and add them all up. You know what I mean? So for something like that, you would, if you feel you have to relocate, I would say, you're probably missing something. But does that make sense? It's hard to get someone's like full situation, like in like a couple of paragraphs, but hopefully that makes sense. If you have additional details about your situation, let me know. Milan, what do you think about nepotism in employment environment? What does it matter what I think about it? Jacob says, I have a bachelor in finance. Okay, we already read that. Bai says, I have watched one of your videos regarding TM. What's TM? And I was interested in attending one of their meetings. Oh, Toastmasters, I guess. That must have been a long time ago. As I want to improve my social skills. Yeah, they're a good starting point for that. It's a solution for some people. If you've never, look, I have no affiliation whatsoever with Toastmasters. I have no interest in necessarily promoting them, but they're a good organization in that they are set up to help, regular people improve their public speaking skills. So they give you a sort of opportunity to do it. You join one of their groups. They give you a very positive environment, generally speaking, to do it. Very encouraging people, very friendly people, and they give you like tips and pointers and education in how to do it. Right. So if one of your goals is to tack on some good public speaking skills, that's one way of getting those. It's not the only solution, but it's something that's out there and it's a solution for a lot of people. Okay, so I hate how this feed just jumps on me. It like moved, so I don't know where I was. Okay, where was I here? Okay, I've lost where I was. May I know if you have participated in a Toastmasters meeting outside your country and what differs them on location near you? Well, no, I haven't participated in a Toastmasters meeting outside my country, no. I mean, it's low-level stuff. It's like if you're trying to overcome nerves, for example, you can't get up in front of a room full of people without feeling horribly self-conscious and feeling like horrible anxiety. That's what it's for. It's not extremely high-level training or anything. And the other thing is that it's not necessarily business-oriented, because I'm not an expert on Toastmasters, but what I have seen is, or what I've been exposed to is like, they have a very sort of, it's almost like being in government. They have meetings, and that stuff they do in government meetings, like they file a motion, seconded, and all this, the resolution to do this, and then motion is passed. That kind of stuff. It's almost like a government meeting. That's how they run their meetings sometimes. Like that's kind of the lingo they use. And it's a very process intensive kind of thing. It's not necessarily bad, but it's kind of like that. But then you learn how to do public speaking, not necessarily in a business context. So you can just get up and do a speech that entertains. If you want it to be, I don't know, a stand-up comedian or something, that involves getting up on a stage in front of a crowd of people and having them all listen to you, and you have to hold their interest. That's public speaking, but it's not a business context for public speaking. But maybe that's your goal. So they don't necessarily train you on public speaking for business. It's kind of just public speaking in general. Of course, a lot of that applies, right? But you get people doing speeches about, this is a story about my cat, things like this, right? Which some people prefer. It doesn't always have to be super serious white collar stuff, but you can have a little fun with it. But that's what they do. They run their meetings in a very sort of process focused way, like a bureaucratic kind of thing. But then you have speeches that are not necessarily, for business. They could be any form of public speaking. Okay, so that's a comment that came before the other comment that I read. Okay. Suhardia says, I'm an undergraduate mechanical engineering student from India with enthusiasm on ML, Gen, AI, and data. I don't know what those are. I know what AI is, but considering the current job market, don't use acronyms when you're talking to someone for the first time. I'm not a mechanical engineer, so I don't know what ML is. Considering the current job market, what should be my best strategy? I interned in core. I don't know what that means. Okay, well, what should be my best strategy? Well, if you're a student just coming out of university, you've got your bachelor degree in mechanical engineering, then you do what people in that situation do. You look for a job that requires a degree in mechanical engineering. I'm not sure if in India, do they have in different countries, they have different ways of qualifying engineers. For example, where I am in Canada, it's almost like driving a car. You do the written test, but then you do the practical test, right? So the written test, that's like your engineering degree. You got the written test, but you also now have to qualify in the field under the guidance of a professional engineer for X many years, and they have to vouch for your work and they have to certify your work. And then the engineering body, the accreditation body, then has to decide whether they're going to accredit you as a fully licensed professional engineer. Now, I'm not sure if you have the equivalent of that in India for mechanical engineering. For what it's worth, a million years ago, I got a degree in electrical engineering, and I took a job where they paid you a lot of money. They required an engineering degree, but they did not train you. They did not have you doing work that could go towards your professional accreditation. So I never got my fully accredited professional engineering license. I went a different route. I went into management. Okay. So you know what I mean? Like there's different paths you can go on. Most people will go on the standard career track for a mechanical engineer. You will work as an engineer, you will do design work, and then you will sort of climb the ladder in the design world. Maybe you end your career by owning an engineering firm, something like that. Okay? And you're the chief engineer, the senior engineer, right? There are other things too, like an engineering degree. What I found in my personal experience was that, there's a lot of people that would hire you on the strength of you having an engineering degree, but not necessarily to do engineering. They would say, okay, we need someone that's highly trainable. They've got good work ethic. They're dependable. They're bright. They're disciplined, and they can work under stress. So if you have an engineering degree, by virtue of the fact that you got your engineering degree, you've shown all those things, all those qualities. So we want to hire you, but we're not going to get you to do design work. We're going to get you to do other things. And in my case, it was you're going to supervise the repair of locomotives. That was kind of the business I went into, as an example, right? You're supervising a gang of mechanics and electricians, and you're looking at the schematics of locomotives, and you're advising on how to fix them, right? So you know what I mean? So there's different career tracks you can do there, and you would go through the standard thing where you apply for jobs, and if you want to gain an edge, you do the networking thing that I kind of demonstrated 20 minutes ago in this live stream. You have a few options there, Suhardya. So you can pursue all of those, and if you do, something will come along very soon. Tammy says, thank you so much, Bill. I'll start doing that. Okay, great. I'm glad that was at least somewhat useful. Jacob is saying some things I don't understand. Want to move 100%. Oh, okay. That was Jacob Tremble. Okay, that was from back here. Okay, you've got the logistics and supply chain management degree. I want to find something for a new description locating. Yeah, well, if you want to move 100%, then definitely it's a good idea. Yes, you don't need my permission to do that. It isn't a red flag. I mean, listen, the way to do it is to sort of do some research before you jump, right? Obviously, if you haven't done that, like get some insight. Preferably have a job waiting for you when you get there, right? If not, I suppose, depending on your personal situation, you could move. If you're moving to a place where it's highly likely you will find a job, I suppose you could do that, but I hesitate to recommend that. It's always best to, sort of a bird in the hand, right? Have your job landed, and then you move and deal with moving when you know that, you've got a job waiting at the end of it. Okay? So that's what I would say about that. I mean, nothing radically innovative there. Suhardya says, I'm specifically looking for a remote. Well, once again, you're using acronyms. I don't know what they mean, and have connected to a startup as an intern. Also, could you just recap the GMAT trick I joined to be like? No, I can't recap that. You can always go back in the live stream. It's one mouse click away. Okay, and just check that. Jacob says, I am an asset management at Technical College. Okay. You're welcome, Jacob. Hopefully that was useful. Jason Shackelford says, recently was offered a job by the state. They hired a third-party employment verification company to do a background check, and I had some dates wrong on a past employer. Should I be worried? It doesn't sound like a big deal, Jason. Like of this before they've gotten back to you. If you know of it, what may help is to be proactive and to contact them and say, listen, I'm not sure if this is an issue or not. I don't think it is, but just in case, for the sake of completeness, I may have made some typos on a previous document or whatever it was. Here are the exact employment dates of the things mentioned on my resume. Okay. I didn't give enough detail, or there were some typos. Okay. That I'm not expecting it to be an issue, but if it is, here you go. Something like that. Right. And then I wouldn't have thought it would be a big issue. I mean, unless it's a big deal. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do that. I mean, maybe it's just so minor that nobody cares, So in which case I would just not even volunteer it. Suhardia. No, we just get the degree. And I meant I did my internship in core mechanical engineering and want to shift to machine learning and data science. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know India has some quirks when it comes to the standard practices for employment for a lot of young people coming out of university. I still advocate for the networking approach. I mean, go through standard channels. Do the standard thing where you apply for jobs. But to really get an edge, try the networking thing. Okay, that can give you an edge. I mean, it's basically universal. That's how the world works. Someone has a job to offer. They need another person in their department. So they post the job. But in addition to posting a job, they don't want to expend any more energy than they need to find a candidate, to have it filled, right? So if you have someone that approaches you and says, hey, I'm a fully qualified mechanical engineer. I've got some great skills in this area. I solve this problem really well. I know that you guys do some great work in that field. If ever you're looking for someone who can do this, let me know, because I'd be very excited to work for your company. I know you guys do this and this and this. That's all. Have yourself a great day. And you send that out, right? Now, how many people are doing that? Not many, right? So that's one way to elevate yourself above the crowd. The key also is sending it to the right person. You don't just send that to a recruiter. That does absolutely no good. You don't send it to just any Tom, Dick, and Harry in the company. You send it to somebody high up that's in the division that you want to work in. Okay, so you would send it to the vice president of engineering, if that exists, right? If it's a smaller company, you send it to the general manager or the owner, right? They are the chief decision maker on these things, right? Those are the people you want to impress. Okay, you don't send it to anyone in the HR organization, right? And you don't do this if they've posted a job. If they posted a job, they're telling you this is the process. If you would like to apply to this, here's what we want you to do. We want you to send an application to this email address, or we want you to go to our website, fill out this form. They're telling you what they want, okay? That's what I call standard channels, okay? Where it goes to some kind of recruiter and they filter it, etc. This, what I'm describing, this proactive networking, this is where you sort of, it's the opposite of that. You're not going through standard channels. You're going right to the boss. You don't need anyone's permission to do this. This is the way the world works. This is, if you're just coming out of school, this is what probably nobody's told you ever. Okay? Unlike the educational system, you don't have to wait your turn. You don't have to ask for permission. You don't have to be told what to do. You are proactive. You decide for yourself what you're going to do. You don't need anyone's permission. You go talk to the boss. And why do you get the job? Because you're the only one that stepped up and did that. The boss needs to hire somebody. And you contacted them and said, hey, I can do it. I got what you need. You're looking for this, right? Well, if you're looking for that, I got it. And I'm the only one that shows up here. I'm the only one that's interested enough or capable enough to do this, and you've just had a taste of what it's like to work with me. You see how that note I sent you, how professional it was? Did it succeed in persuading you to give me a call? Right? It did? Okay, well, this is what it's like working with me. I'm that professional. I'm that easy to deal with. This is a sample of my communication skills. Right? That's why this is a thing that works. Okay, if you do it right. You got to say the right thing to the right person. It's not rocket science, but you have to know a few basics, and you can do this. Anyway. Did I do Jason Shackelford? Yeah, I think so, right? They hired a third-party verification. Yeah, we did that one. And Suhardya. Okay. I don't know. Maybe when people are just coming out of university, they're going for their first career job. Maybe I'm raising the bar too high for people. For some people, this is too much of a shock, too much of a new kind of thing. Possibly. But if you do it, you'll definitely get an advantage. Okay. This is coincidentally also how they fill jobs higher up, right? Like for management positions and stuff. If they need a divisional vice president, usually you don't get a recruiter saying, posting a job, here's the job for divisional vice president, apply with your resume and, answer these skill testing questions and go to an interview with a 21-year-old recruiter that asks you, why do you want to work here? Stuff like it's usually not done that way. And when it is done that way, when you see like a job posting for vice president, that's usually like, there's stuff behind the scenes you're not seeing. Like this is kind of maybe just to keep up appearances, make it seem fair. Really, they're doing it through networking on, the way everything else is done, right? So, companies don't get CEOs by posting a job posting, and having people apply. I'm a CEO, they've never heard of you. They don't know you, right? You know what I mean? You're a stranger, right? That's usually not how it works. Usually not. It's just done through networking, like a lot of things. Like the example I've used before to illustrate this is, let's say you want to leave home on a vacation, but you need someone to come in and check on your house, to go into your home and, I don't know, feed the pets or collect the mail or, do something. Now, who would you get to do that? Would you post a job? Like, I'm going to pay you $100 a week to come and do this, keep an eye on my home and go in and do a few maintenance things. Or would you do it through networking? Would you get someone that that you know very well on a personal basis? Well, you'd get someone that because the key element here is not that the skill is so rare that hardly anyone has it. The key element is I need somebody I can trust, that's going to do the right thing, right? So it's very similar to this situation right here. Okay, so that's why networking is a thing. That's why they use it for jobs that, where you need to make decisions. If you're hiring a decision maker, a manager of some kind, right? So that's why this exists. All you're doing is you're at a slightly lower level, but you're still employing this methodology, right? This vector or whatever you want to call it. So there you go. Anyway, I always end up talking about this stuff. But there you go. If anyone does have any more questions, get in the chat. I'm here to answer some questions. If I don't get a lot of questions, I will be winding this up soon, depending on what we get in the chat. Yeah, and as a reminder, like I said at the very beginning of this live stream, every Saturday I post a joke public opinion poll question. It's a joke. And I've been getting a lot of flack from people in the comments because I post a joke question and they think it's serious, and they're, commenting how stupid it is, or how it doesn't make sense, or, whatever, or how they're confused as to what the right answer is. It's a joke. The reason why I post the public opinion poll questions is because I want to get people thinking about the concepts here. They're important for understanding the job market and understanding how people get selected for jobs and all that kind of stuff. So, like, for example, the last question I believe that went out yesterday or this morning or whatever it was saying most people who have jobs work either in A, companies with more than 500 employees, or B, companies less than 500 employees. And then you would have to select like a multiple choice, A or B, and see what you got. The answer varies by country, so there is no one right answer. Where I am in Canada, the most people that have jobs work in companies that are less than 500 employees. In a lot of other countries, that's true also. In the United States, I believe it's closer to 50%. I think there's actually more. It's something like 55% or something like that are of people work in companies that are over 500 employees. Okay, so but this is also to get people thinking, because what a lot of people do is, especially when they're coming out of school or college or university or whatever, and they're applying for jobs, they're looking at big companies. They think of employers as the big companies, right? And they don't see all the small employers that are around them. And in my opinion, that's where there's a hell of a lot of opportunity. I've had a career in big companies like Fortune 500 companies. And then I sort of stopped and went to work for smaller companies and had another career in smaller companies. And by far, for me, in my experience, smaller companies are way better for a variety of reasons. So don't neglect the small companies just because they might be less visible when when you're driving around the city or something, or you're taking the train or whatever, you're taking the streetcar, or taking your rickshaw around the city, and you look at the businesses you see where the employers are. You're going to see a lot of big companies, but the small companies are usually hidden away in like industrial parks and things like this. But there's a lot of employers there, and they employ a hell of a lot of people. So, remember to try and look there too. That's why I was asking that kind of question. I also had someone comment and say, like, well, you need to put the answer, Well, there is no right answer depending on where you live in the world, right? But it's to get people thinking about this. It's a Google search away to find out what the number is for your country or for your region of your country, And this helps do job searches better when you know this stuff. Okay, Jacob Tremble says, I have a question, Bill. I have an Indeed and LinkedIn account. I look at jobs, I guess, every day, and I write to the manager CEO. I don't get an answer from them. Really looking for the right job. Okay. Well, you're doing the right thing in principle. Just make sure the details are correct. Okay. What you write is very important. Okay. You can, just because you're contacting, like if you're contacting the CEO or something, and remember, CEO, it's either an owner or a CEO for a small company. For a big company, depending on the details, maybe the CEO is not the most appropriate person, especially if the company is really big, right? Maybe some vice president or local executive is probably what you would want, right? So you need to sort of figure these things out, right? And it really is key on what you say, right? For example, absolute basic stuff like having a bunch of typos in your message, that instantly pretty much, dooms it to failure. You won't get a response. It's a non-starter, right? As an example, right? It doesn't matter what you say. If you have riddled with spelling errors and grammatical errors, that signals something about you. You're putting poor communication skills on display for everyone to see right there. Their first impression of you is created by that note, and the note has some glaring issues with it, so you just made a really bad first impression, right? So it depends on how you do it. I talk about a lot of that stuff in my course, by the Get Hired course, by the way, if you are interested in going that far, going that route. Jacob says, hopefully this hard work come to a pass to get a job. Should I still use Indeed and LinkedIn? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know much about Indeed. Like, I don't know if I highly recommend it. I know it's got a lot of jobs on there. They're very low-level jobs. You know, I haven't applied for those jobs myself. I don't know if it's a good way to get the low-level jobs or how it goes. But LinkedIn definitely is a useful tool. But it depends what you do with it, right? You can do many, many different things with LinkedIn. You can contact many different types of people, and you can contact them different ways. So some things work and some things don't. But LinkedIn is effective if you use it correctly. So yes. Now, I don't necessarily recommend you pay for things like LinkedIn. I don't think, in my situation, I've tried their paid accounts and stuff. And I mean, maybe if you're a recruiter, maybe if you're a salesperson, like, you know, maybe it makes sense. But, you know, just for me and for what I've talked about today, you don't need to pay for any of their premium stuff, in my opinion, just in my experience. Okay. Right back at you, Aaron Pradhan. Okay, I'm going to be wrapping this up in a couple of minutes. So if you have any last minute questions, please ask them now or forever hold your peace. I will, after today, when this is over, I will be back next Monday for another edition of How to Get Hired. I didn't do a installment today of my other live stream, which is Side Hustle Ideas. I'm just taking a break for a week or two on that one. And I will be back to resume that. I will be back to resume my live stream on leadership, like how to get, you know, how to work as an executive and deal with executive issues. I have committed to doing 3 more episodes of that, so I will do those. Just not this week. Aaron says, can you tell how to answer an 8-month gap in a career? Yeah, well, listen, if you have an 8-month gap on your resume, okay, so that's a gap where you were between jobs, okay, and you have to explain it. Now, if it's a current gap, then you will have to provide an explanation, usually. If it's a previous gap, like let's say 2 years ago, you had an 8-month gap, but then you got a job after it, right? And you have that job on your resume. So that's a previous gap. Previous gap, you may not get asked about it, okay? The reason why they ask you the question, they say, what's this all about, is because they suspect it raises a red flag. It could indicate that there's something wrong with you, some issue of which they're unaware, okay? So that's why they're wondering. That's going to be on their mind, okay? Now, what you don't want to say is that, you know, oh, I just haven't done anything during that 8 months, okay? I was between jobs and I was just doing nothing, okay? That will be a red flag for them. If they hear you say that, they're going to assume that, oh, okay, either you're lazy or there's something wrong with you or there's some issue that's preventing you from getting hired. Nobody wants to hire you. Maybe that's for a reason, so maybe we should steer clear of you too, okay? So what's good to be able to say is that, like, oh, this gap, I was between jobs. Well, it wasn't that I was doing nothing. I was doing something during that gap. Okay, so you need to be able to say something. So, for example, if you said, like, oh, I went back to school, or oh, I got some training in this or that, or oh, I did some volunteering, you know, for this, you know, that kind of stuff. Then it's like, okay, it's not really a gap. It's that it was a conscious decision for you to go and do this other activity for a bit, and now you're back, right? Now you're ready to rejoin the workforce. Okay? So that's ideally what you would want to say. Now, let's pretend that you can't say that. You didn't volunteer for anything. There wasn't any sort of like medical thing that was the reason behind the gap. And you didn't go back to school and you didn't take any training. Okay. Well, if it were me, what I would do is I would see if I could go take like a quick, like a course or two, just go and register for a free course somewhere and take another free course. And then if anyone asks you, what's this work gap? You could say, oh, well, I went back to school. I got some training on this and this and this. I wanted to brush up on my skills in those areas. I thought that would help me going forward in my career. And I feel that it will, or that it has, so I completed those courses and now I'm ready to rejoin the workforce. And that's what that work gap is. Something like that. It would be great to be able to say that, because that doesn't raise any red flags. And it also shows that you're improving, right? So I would just try and find a course that, is quick, that, is useful for you. Maybe that doesn't cost any money, and just register for it and then take it. And then you can answer truthfully when they say what is this? You say, I went back to school, right? So that takes care of that. There's no deception. There's no lying involved. It's all above board. It all makes sense, and it doesn't raise any red flags. That's what I would recommend for something like that. Okay, I think I'm going to wind this down. There are 17 people here. Thank you for joining me today. You guys are awesome. Hopefully you got something out of this. I will be back next week. Check out the 2 courses I have here. There's links in the description boxes. This is the sort of definitive guide for getting hired, okay, for going through standard channels, job applications, resumes, job interviews, all that. And also, this here is a course. This is if you want to learn business. Okay, so if you want to brush up on your business skills, you want to learn what managers do, it essentially qualifies you to be a manager. You learn, or have potential to learn, everything that's in a Master's of Business Administration program. Okay, the catch is that this is a fully self-study course. There are no tests, no evaluations. So you could just skim the material if that's all you care about, or you could go really, really in depth. Okay, it's up to you. You learn what you want. It is unaccredited because there are no evaluations. So I don't know if you've learned anything or done anything. It's just for you to learn the material. This is useful for people who want to train themselves, train them in the skills to become managers, okay, or supervisors. Or you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to learn business. This is another huge area of value if that's your goal. Or if you're thinking of taking an actual university MBA program and you want to see what it's all about, what are the kind of things you're going to learn, how hard is it, you want to dip your toe in the water, for $100, this is a way to do that. So check that out if you have any interest, if that's one of your goals. All the details for these things are in the description box below this video. And I have videos that I've made that specifically describe in detail what's in the course, these courses, and how it works. So, you know exactly what you're getting into before you pull the trigger on it. So there you go. Check that out. And I will be back next week. Thank you for joining me today. I wish you all the best in your job search endeavors, and I will see you soon. Take care.